Welcome on board with us on the Sunrise Safari. We are in the Kruger National Park on Djuma Private Game Reserve in South Africa, and as you can all see, it's a wonderful, wonderful morning here. We just parked on an elevated position enjoying the sunrise, and the sun hasn't quite popped up yet, but I'm going to ask Phil, who's on camera with me this morning, to take you on a small journey through these clouds, as there are some incredible colors popping out there at the moment, some bright oranges and pinks. So enjoy the clouds, and while you enjoy the journey across the eastern horizon, I'm going to let you know a little bit about the plans for this morning. There's reportedly a giraffe drinking at the Vuyatela Dam, so we are going to make our way there and see if we can see it. And for those of you who are regular viewers, you would have noticed that the highlights reel was substituted for the Djuma waterhole cam this morning because of the great sighting of a giraffe there. So thanks to the Zoomy for filming that giraffe so well. And I heard there were some beautiful reflections earlier on, so I hope you all got to see that. James and Andrew are out on Wendy, the other vehicle, and they have headed into the last general area of Shadow, a female leopard, and her cub, Sindile. He's 8 months old now and has been providing us with some great sightings. So that's where James is. I hope he's going to get lucky. Myself and Phil will head to the Vuyatela waterhole now to see if we can find that giraffe, and from there we're going to head towards our northern boundary, where a game vehicle saw Mvula, one of the dominant male leopards, last night. If we listen carefully now, I'm just going to ask Phil to pan across. There's a hyena calling. Possibly faintly called the whooping howl of a hyena. Whoop. And it sounds like the general area of where a clan of hyena have been denning, but they've evidently moved den sites between two, which we know they used, to another one where we don't know exactly where it's located. Anyway, great to hear that hyena audio, and without further ado, we are going to continue on. Nikki and Eugene are in the final control room today, and it's not too cold this morning. It's been colder. It was certainly much colder yesterday morning and yesterday afternoon. It's about 11 degrees Celsius, which is 52 degrees Fahrenheit. And look at how wonderful the sight is of the clouds catching fire as the sun begins to rise up. Some of you may have heard leopard audio being picked up on the Djuma waterhole cam last night at around 6:37, and that would have been Mvula vocalizing. We also heard him last night, and it was great that we managed to get confirmation as to which leopard it was calling from Jors, so hopefully we'll get lucky and find him there. But let's carry on, and as we continue, you may well be linked across to with James and Andrew at any moment to get an update on how their morning is going. But it'll be nice to give them a little bit of time to snoop around, allow James to jump off the vehicle, check for tracks. It's a tricky business finding leopard, and often when you are live, you battle to focus on the task at hand, so we'll give them a bit more time in that area before we link across to them, but hopefully by the time we do go across them, we'll have some great news for all of us. Now, for those of you who may be joining for the first time, a very, very warm welcome to Safari Live, and as the name suggests, it is a live safari. So this is happening this very second, which I know is hard to comprehend, but with technology these days and some very clever people on our team, we managed to get you this picture live. So it's really exciting stuff. We don't know what's going to happen this morning. We don't know where the animals are, and you, along with us, are going to try and piece together this puzzle as to what would have happened under the cover of darkness. And as we go along trying to piece this puzzle together, it'd be wonderful if you could send through questions or comments or observations, and it's really easy to do that. All you have to do is hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. And we really do appreciate all the questions that do get sent through, and apologize in advance if we don't answer your question immediately, but keep trying. We will eventually get around to it. You have to remember that there are thousands of you on the back of this vehicle, and that makes it tricky to answer everyone's question. We're not too far from the Djuma waterhole. Just a few more minutes and we'll be there. And I'm hoping the giraffe is still going to be in that area. As to what animals are at the Djuma waterhole this morning, which is really exciting. Not only is it a big giraffe, but also some spoonbills, which are really interesting aquatic feeders, and they've got a understandably spoon-shaped bill, hence their name, as well as saddle-billed storks, which are really beautiful storks. So I'm looking forward to getting there, and like I say, it should only take a few more minutes until we get there. I'm really enjoying the clouds in the sky that we've been experiencing over the last few days. We typically don't get many clouds in our winter months, as it can be our drier months, and often it is clear blue skies, and I really do love the effect of the clouds and patterns changing in the sky as the day goes on. That we could have approached the Djuma Dam. There are those wonderful clouds, thanks Phil. And as I was saying, there are different ways to approach the Djuma waterhole from where we were. And I've decided to take a route that has not been driven yet this morning, therefore increasing our chances of hopefully bumping into something interesting. I thought I saw some fresh leopard tracks there, but they weren't in fact fresh. They were old and it's getting tricky as the roads become drier and dustier, as the tracks are very neat and clear and maintain being neat and clear for long periods of time, longer than that of summer, because there's more soft sand for them to leave a depression in. It makes for seeing the tracks a lot easier, but determining whether they are fresh or old can be tricky. Interestingly, last night, it was not only one leopard that we heard vocalizing north of the Djuma waterhole, it was definitely two. Myself and Nikki headed out for a short drive to see if we could find those leopard, and while we were parked on the dam wall at the Djuma waterhole, we could certainly hear two different leopard calling. They were quite close to one another, so possibly it was Tingana, who's pushing more east into Mbula's territory because he's getting more pressure from a male leopard we've yet to see called the Anderson male. But if things continue as they are and the Anderson male continues pushing east into Arathusa, then we could well be seeing three different big male leopards, which will be great. And what it means we could also see is some interactions between the dominant males as they try and determine who's going to have which territory, and it could end up in a fight. What I'm guessing was happening last night, though, was they're having more of an argument than a fight. Okay, well, we've just come across a roadblock, and interestingly enough, it's the elephants who are responsible for this. And as you can see on this branch over here, it's had a lot of the bark stripped off of it, and that's what elephants will do a lot at this time of year. They'll be focusing on the cambium layer, the external layer of skin, you could almost call it, that surrounds the inner dead woody layer. That was a francolin that you heard taking off in an alarmed nature. I'm just going to jump out quickly and remove this buffalo thorn from the road. Now, just like James showed you yesterday, it was with a different tree. It was with a tree called the roundleaf teak, and I can't see any in this immediate area, but a very different tree. But they do the same thing, and what they do is they will slowly chew the piece of wood until they've stripped just this thin barky layer. That's all they're looking for as they go along. And they haven't fed on any of the leaves. It's all simply the cambium layer. Beautiful, you can see the sun poking up over the horizon now, which means in a few minutes we should be bathed in a beautiful golden glow with the first morning light. Some hyena tracks heading down this road that I'm driving down, and hyena cover huge distances every night. So it's the most common track that we see along the roads every morning. They are incredibly strong animals when it comes to endurance. They can cover huge, huge distances in search of food. Sight on our right over here, so I'm just going to stop and let Phil show it to you. That dead knobthorn tree in the first morning light with those dark clouds in the background is making for a spectacular view. You'll notice how the sun is yet to reach the grassy plains, as it's not quite high enough yet, but the tree is illuminated perfectly. And apologies if you're not hearing me very clearly. We're evidently having some issues with the front mic, which picks up my audio as I'm speaking forward. So apologies for that. It's a miracle that all this equipment in these vehicles survives the battering that it receives on a daily basis as we bounce around these rough roads. And from time to time we do have a few small issues, so apologies for that. It's certainly not going to stop the show though, and I wonder what this sunrise safari will reveal. James is still trying to establish what the female leopard shadow and her cub have got up to last night. And as I've said that, I've stumbled upon some male leopard tracks here. They do look quite fresh. They're going to be very difficult to show you because we don't have any sunlight on the road yet, so I'm not going to attempt to. But they are heading down in this direction towards the waterhole. And I'm guessing that they could possibly be Mvula's tracks from earlier last night, heading towards where he was seen further north of the dam by Jors, one of the landowners at Buffelshoek, the property to the north of Djuma. But it's still very useful for us to know which to take. And I already know that from previous sightings with him. This is an area where he does like to slink about. So very luckily got this live waterhole camera, which provides us with so much useful intelligence as to what animals may have passed by the waterhole every evening. And I can't tell you how many sightings we owe thanks to that waterhole camera, as well as the zoomies who control the camera and the viewers who spread the word if anything interesting is seen. So it's a team effort, which is also a wonderful aspect about the waterhole camera. Apologies, we're taking a little bit longer than I would have liked to get to the waterhole. I cannot wait to see the spoonbill, saddleboard stork, and also established whether the giraffe is still there. us. Beachy would like to know which tree I removed from the middle of the road. And I'm sorry, I thought I said that it was a buffalo thorn tree, but thankfully there's another one right here. So Phil will be able to take you on a little tour of this buffalo thorn. It's got both straight thorns and hooked thorns, and you'll notice how on certain branches you can see the little hooked thorns. So it's a tree that you do not want to get tangled up in, and you would have possibly noticed that I was quite cautious as I pulled it off the road. And if it wasn't the buffalo thorn tree that you wanted to know about, another tree that we've stopped and looked at this morning is the knobthorn tree, which was the large dead tree which had had the bark on the base of it stripped off by elephants, and that's what would have killed it. The leaves that you're looking at are edible, and I'm sure James, the other presenter, has already had a few mouthfuls for you. I prefer rockets and different salady leaves like that are more accustomed to the human palate, but James appears to be honing his palate to that no different to an elephant or a kudu. Okay, well, I hope that answers your question, Beachy. Those are the two trees that I can think of that you may not have caught the name of as we've been moving about this morning. Just got about a minute or so until we get to the waterhole, so don't go anywhere. Or if you're about to pour yourself a drink or have a cup of tea, do it quickly because we're about to get there. Morning, John Boy, and thanks for sending your question through to us on Twitter. John Boy is asking if there's been any reports of the Nkahuma pride of lions. It's a pride of 8 lions that we see more regularly than any other pride on Djuma, and they were last seen heading north out of the northwestern corner of our property. And sadly, no, John Boy, no reports so far. But once the other vehicles head out to traverse that area, hopefully they'll have some intelligence for us. It sounds like there's been a lot of buffalo activity in the northern parts of Buffelshoek, and that is luring the lion across there. Whereas the buffalo have not started coming this far south yet. Hopefully they will. Okay, so we will be at the waterhole very shortly. I can't see the giraffe yet. Here's a bird that we don't get to show you up close very often. Oh, don't run away. Well, it's not going to be just yet this morning either, unless I can creep forward a little bit more. There we go. It's very well camouflaged, but there is one just over my right shoulder. Look at that camouflage. Absolutely incredible. Very pretty bird with a massive eye, as well as a quite large head. Now, interestingly, its original name used to be called a dikkop, D-I-K-K-O-P, which in Afrikaans, which is of Dutch descent, you could say, the language, means thick head, because of its big head. And it's gone from thick head to its current name called a thick knee. Now, this is a water thick knee, and you also get a spotted thick knee. So I'm just going to try and find the old thick knee in the book and I'll show you the differences between the two. But how incredible is that camouflage as it just sits there with its feathers all ruffled up to try and keep warm. And the main difference is, when I show you the book, is that epaulet almost that runs through the shoulder or wing of the water thickney. But let's have a look at the book. And here you can see the very clear white stripe across the wing, whereas the spotted thickney lacks that. Quite similar looking though, other than that. Very good. Okay, let's continue now. We are about to reveal who is here at the waterhole. And I wonder where the giraffe's gone. It's incredible how such large animals can disappear so quickly. A quite interesting lesson, especially for the newcomers to the Safari Live experience. It won't take you long to learn that timing is everything. And it was just a few minutes ago that there was a saddle-billed stork, spoonbills, and a giraffe at the waterhole. But now, I think all that is left are the fish that swim along below the water, and we can't see them.
I'm sorry that all the animals left.
But there's quite a lot of activity actually, and these catfish and tilapia in all likelihood seem to be wide awake this morning, and you can notice all the ripples on the waterhole. And I've just been told that the Djuma waterhole camera is zoomed in on us, so I'm giving a morning wave, and I'm sorry that all the animals left the waterhole. Where have they gone? Which way did the giraffe go? This way or that way? The Djuma waterhole camera is situated just up in this little tree above my finger there, and we're not sure where the giraffe has gone. So we'll wait here a moment or two to see if any of you who've been watching can provide us with some intelligence as to where we should go next. The lilac-breasted roller just flew up right in front of the camera and is now sitting just above it. It's a really pretty bird. Sadly, we are quite far from it here, but you can see it sitting up just a few meters above the waterhole cam. Well, folks,
I'm sure in the next few moments James would like to say good morning to you.
Seeing as though there is not too much life that we can see at the moment here at the Djuma waterhole, we are going to leave the camera and the zoomy controlling it to keep searching this area, and hopefully our timing will be better next time. Sorry we missed all the storks and the spoonbills, but that's safari. We can't stop the animals and we can't teleport, so those two factors make it difficult for us to influence what's going on. What we can influence, however, is whose vehicle you're on, and I'm sure in the next few moments James would like to say good morning to you and give you an update as to how his search has been for Shadow and her cub. So over to James, and we'll catch up with you all a little bit later.
Good evening, at least, sorry. Good morning, everyone. And welcome to Wendy and our morning safari or morning game drive. It's a beautiful morning. It's not nearly as cold as it was yesterday, at which point my lips froze and I found it quite difficult to speak with all of you. But here we are. We have Andrew on the back and we're hot on the trail of what looks to be shadow. Yesterday I had a wonderful time in the afternoon. I went for a walk, and as we were walking along, or as I was walking along, I found some tracks on the road, and so I followed them thinking not much of it. And eventually, about 15 minutes after I'd been following them, I looked, they'd disappeared off the road, and I just had a sense of something watching me. And I turned to the right, and just on top of a beautiful termite mound, there was the leopard. And she thought she was totally invisible. She was hunched down like this. And so I pretended not to see her. I just sort of glanced her way and then carried on walking, because if I'd made it obvious that I'd seen her, she would have disappeared off the back, and then no one would have seen her. And then we called Scott, and he came and found her. And it was just a very special experience to have that time on foot with an animal like that. I left there feeling extremely elated and happy. So I'm going to try and repeat that experience now, but not on foot with you. So we've been following the tracks. We found them just about 4 minutes ago, just up behind us. They've come onto this fairly main road. They're going along next to us on the right hand side here. She looks to be marking territory or something like that. She doesn't seem to be in a stalking mode, which is quite nice. It means that the tracks are much easier to follow, but you never know with these leopards. They look pretty fresh to me, but again, it is difficult to tell on a road where there's quite a lot of traffic. Right, so we're going to carry on along here. Remember, any questions you have, we love to hear from you. Any comments you have, we also love to hear them. Hashtag Safari Live or questions at wildearth.tv. And let's see what we can find. So only tracks of the mother going down the road here. No tracks of Sindile, as he has been dubbed. And as I say that, oh, there she is, she's on the right, on the left. And we just have a quick look there, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Looks to be her. And we thought we heard an impala alarm calling in this area. So chances are she's around. It's a little bit difficult because there are tracks going up and down. But I think the ones going this way are fresher than the ones going the other way. So continue we shall, and with any luck we'll find her resting in the boughs of a smooth marula tree. Still got any tracks there, Andrew? Okay, Andrew's turning into a very fine tracker. There they are, Andrew, I can see them from here. Sorry, I'll take that back. Andrew's turning into a very amateur tracker. He does have quite a lot to think about on the back of the Land Rover. Yeah, she's walking straight down the middle of the road. You can see her there, Andrew?
Yes, I can see that.
So that's quite exciting. I always get very excited and then the tracks disappear and I feel deflated. There she is. There she is. She's crossed across the road there, looks to me. Andrew, can you see anything further your side?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Okay, I think she's gone in here.
Oh, wait a minute. Let's go look at your back.
I'm just going to, I think we're going to go and find the next road and head into Arathusa.
Here's the one. See here.
Okay. So, you've got to be very patient to be a tracker. This is why I have never been a very good tracker. I'm about as patient as a 2-year-old after a children's birthday party. Yeah, she's definitely crossed the road here. There she goes. Straight across there. Pop, pop. And she's gone in there. Right, so what we're going to do, just check that she hasn't come out further down. Sometimes that's what they do if they're marking territory. Now there she is. She seems to be back on the road. Yep, she's back on the road. Fear not. Yes, I'm afraid we seem to have further technical difficulties. Right, there we go. Got you. She's still going down the road. It's quite tempting to drive at great speed, but obviously then you could miss her melting into a termite mound like she was yesterday. She thought she was very clever. She thought she was very invisible. She's still here. She's on top of some elephant tracks, which is good news. Still walking along the road there. Right, so while we carry on looking for this recalcitrant spotted cat, we're going to cross back to Scott. He's found a hyena. I think that's what he's found. He's found something exciting anyway, and we'll see you just now.
Well, another huge thank you to the Zumi who located this hyena just moments after we left the Vuyatila Dam. It crossed over the dam wall and now is carrying along the road, and we too shall follow. I wonder where it will take us. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to spend some time with it. It's a great example, just watching it now, that they are animals of endurance. They cover huge distances in short spaces of time as they gently trot through the bush effortlessly. And what does it know? What can it smell? Is it just excited to get home? Does it know of some action somewhere? Hard to tell, because they do often move in this slow canter-like motion. It does appear to have its nose very close to the ground though, so maybe it can smell something interesting. A kill, other hyena. It's hard to say. Let's watch and see what it does here. Absolutely awesome. Its nose to the ground, following the scent trail of who knows what. They often follow the scents and trails of leopard, in the knowledge that when they finally find the leopard, it may have a kill or some meat that they can try and steal. And I'm loving this. We so often only see the hyena when they are at their den sites, but seldom get to follow them and see them going about their daily business when not at the den sites. And there's no time to delay. As you can see, he is hot on the trail of something. I think it's a male, just judging by its size. Sadly though, the area it's now headed down into is going to be very difficult for us to follow him, because it's a thick riverbed. What I'm going to do is see if I can find any tracks, possibly a leopard, just to get an idea of what it could be smelling, or what scent it could be following. But I can't see any evidence of a leopard heading down here. That's not to say that there isn't though. And even though it's going to be tricky to follow the hyena here, I'm going to have one little attempt to see if we can get another glimpse of it. And sorry to rush you away from James and Andrew after you just jumped on board with him. But like I said earlier, we cannot determine what will happen next. And this morning is no different. Well, I think the hyena has moved on too quickly for us to follow. But while we're here, I'm going to tell you a little story about this tree. That's just in front of us here. It's a tambuti tree, and in that tree was an impala once upon a time in December, and it was... Listen to the hyena. Well, you would have heard that loud and clearly, I'm sure. It was the same hyena we've just seen, and who knows why it was vocalizing. It's very hard to tell what that could have meant. It could have been that he's found something interesting, or simply that he's wanting to communicate with hyena many miles away. Like I said, it's so thick in there that we are not even going to attempt to establish what's going on. But while we wait and listen, we may be able to piece together what exactly that hyena is trying to say. As I was saying though, this tree up in front of us was a pantry for Karula, and she had an impala kill hoisted up in there just hours after she lost her cub. I think it was within 12 hours of losing her remaining cub, her last remaining cub from her previous litter. And it was an impala female that had given birth to a very young lamb, and Karula had managed to kill the mother, but not the lamb, and the lamb was waiting in this area. The rest of the herd had moved off, and I guess luckily the following day Karula did kill the lamb as well, which was waiting patiently for its mother to return. And I guess Karula essentially put that lamb out of a slow and painful death by killing it the following day. But interesting stuff has happened all around us and will continue to happen. And aren't we also lucky to be building such great memories of the animals that traverse Djuma and Arathusa? And I'm looking forward to many more exciting memories over the coming months. That hyena audio was awesome. It's an animal noise that I love to hear, but seldom I'm very close to them when they call. So that was really crisp and loud. After Karula caught the young impala lamb, she hoisted it up into this beautiful big jackalberry tree and fed on it, actually on that branch over there. So that's where Karula had the impala lamb and where she fed on it. Anyway, we will continue now and try and find some new memories. To hear that you all enjoyed that hyena audio. What an incredible noise. It's quite a spooky noise, and I guess they have got a spooky nature about them, the old hyena. And we just got a question through from Kevin. Morning, Kevin, and welcome on board with us. I hope you're enjoying the sunrise safari. Kevin would like to know how the sun has an impact on our tracking. And basically, Kevin, you could imagine tracks being laid down on a dusty road like we're driving down here, and with the sun coming in from a low angle to the side, it will cast shadows on the edges of the track, which illuminate those edges and make them stand out. Whereas if the sun is directly above the track and shining down on it, you will not see a clear edge or definition of the corners of the track. And even as Phil zooms into the vehicle tracks on the road, you can see each edge is very defined and distinct on the left, Phil. Whereas and that's where the sun is casting, you can see each tyre track being clearly lit up from a side angle. Whereas as soon as he goes into the shadow, you don't pick up the ridges nearly as clearly. They aren't illuminated. Now, even though there are hyena tracks heading down the right-hand side of the road, it's not very clear to see in the shadows, and that's what makes tracking at midday and tracking in overcast weather more difficult than tracking in early morning or late afternoon sunshine. Good question though, Kevin, and hard to understand clearly unless you're out here with us, but I'm hoping that that explanation kind of paints a picture in your head and makes a bit of sense. The worst weather to be tracking in, like I say, is either overcast weather or in the middle of the day when the sun is directly above us. Tracks coming down into this area as well, I'm just going to check up in the trees very carefully to see that there isn't a leopard with a kill in the tree. There's a chance of that, but nothing is guaranteed out here. A little bit later come back to this area and take a little walk around, and the reason why I'm not doing it right now is that James is busy off his vehicle snooping about, so we can't both leave you stranded here stuck on the back of our vehicles without anyone to drive you around. But I would be interested in possibly coming back here for a short walk later just to make sure that nothing interesting is going on down in the riverbed. Stopping to listen, see if we can find any sign of what the hyena may be excited about, or even hear any clues as to what may be going on in there, but no luck. Confirm you got some lion on Yors up in Buffelshoek, not far from where we are right now, and the Unkahuma Pride managed to catch a buffalo probably early yesterday, a large buffalo bull. They're busy feeding on it now, but it's in an area where we sadly cannot go. Yors seems to think though that they could finish that kill today, and that way there's a chance they will pop onto our property at some time, maybe later this evening. But great news for the Unkahuma Pride. They were very, very hungry and were battling to make a substantial kill. So I'm very happy to hear that they have succeeded and caught what? This looks like it could be. Okay.
Hello everyone, welcome back. I believe that was a sudden crossing to me. We are still hot on the trail of Shadow and Sindile. We found both tracks now. They are, or were, on the road. There they are, they're back again. She's going up and down like this down the road. Now we can't go to the eastern side of the road because that is next door. And next door tends to frown upon us just wandering on there. So we're going to keep down here. So far we can go to the west of the road, which is quite nice. So far she's still on the road, and the tracks look pretty fresh to me, so I'm hoping that she's going to pop, I don't know, pop up like she did yesterday. She and he will pop up like they did yesterday. But at this stage, who knows? It's turning into a rather magnificent morning. The birds are singing. The leopards are walking. But we have yet to see them, of course. So for those of you who are perhaps first-time viewers, just to reiterate that we're sitting in about 3.5 million hectares of wildlife area. That's about the same size as Wales. 2.2 million hectares of which is the Kruger National Park. And that's about 5 million acres. And sorry, I'm just going to keep looking at the road to see if I can see the tracks. I don't see them anymore. Anyway, and the section we're on is about 1,500 hectares of that in a little section called the Sabi Sand Game Reserve. Now to the right of us is Arathusa, so that's to the west, and Arathusa we can traverse. So I'm just going to have a good look on the ground here to see if her tracks don't come out. If they do not, we will probably go back up the road. Have you got anything that side, Andrew? Scott has a little surprise for you, so while we continue with this slightly frustrating process, we're going to cross back to him, and then I'll see you just now. There's an impala.
Welcome back everyone, and apologies for the chopping and changing between the vehicles and for my loss of signal earlier, but look what we found there. It's a little pill-spotted owlet, and as Phil zooms out, he's going to give you an idea of how far away it is from us. Sadly, we cannot zoom any closer, and we have snuck into this little spot to try and get you a gap in the trees to show you the little bird just up ahead of us over here. So it's an animal we don't get to see very often, and it's a pity we can't get any closer. There's an impenetrable wall of vegetation here, but enjoy one last view of this really pretty little owlet. It's fully grown, and it looks twice the size that it usually is because of the fact that it's got its feathers extremely puffed up, and it almost looks like a little balloon. And enjoying the morning sunshine, as are we. And I'm not sure when exactly you lost the broadcast from us, but great news about the Nkuhuma Pride managing to catch a buffalo. Sadly, it's not on a property that we can traverse. But there's thankfully lots of other characters out here that we can look for. And just like this one, another incredible predator that can hunt prey the same size as itself. It can even kill birds bigger than itself when it's hunting. And it's interestingly enough a daytime owl. They will call during the night and hunt during the night, but a lot of their hunting will be done during the day. And they do feed predominantly on birds, interestingly enough. Wonderful. Well, we're going to send you back to James and continue on our way towards Buffelshoek Dam to see if there's any action over there. So we'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Right, you are back with us. Welcome. Nothing to report as yet. But what we are going to do, I think she's crossed onto Aratuza, which... sorry, Andrew.
Okay.
As one of you very kindly pointed out to me one day, means let us help in Pedi, North Sutu. And I'm going to hope that Aratuza uses its name and helps me and us find Shadow and her cub. Resting in the smooth boughs of a marula tree, possibly with a large meal. Activity on this road, and the roads are always, it's so nice to get out early in the morning because before any traffic starts or any people start walking about, because the story of the night can be interpreted from the road if you've spent long enough out here. There are some impala around here. Let's have a look at them quickly, Andy. They're looking distinctly relaxed, which is not ideal when you're looking for leopards, unless one of them is about to have a leopard on her back. But they certainly don't look particularly panicked about life, do they? And they're all standing in the sun. You can see they always look slightly darker in the morning because they tend to fluff up, just like a bird does, they fluff up the hair on their backs and it traps a bit more air underneath them, underneath the hair, and warms them up. And you'll watch it sometimes, when you watch impala, you're convinced there must be a predator around because they're so vigilant. So you saw that ewe lifting her head and looking intently into the distance, and they'll do that all the time. It won't be for long before one in that herd is up and looking there, just like that. Constant vigilance behavior is highly important if you are the choice snack for all 5 of the top predators out here. You can hear the hornbill calling in the background. Shangaan word for hornbill is nkoro, and most of their words are in fact onomatopoeic, and that one is certainly one of them from the call. Nkoro. I think that's a particularly excellent hornbill impression. What do you think, Andrew?
Average.
No. Thank you, Andrew. Andrew reckons my bird calling's about as good as his tracking. Okay, let us move along. So I don't have tracks anymore. I'm hoping she's crossed west into Arathusa. Which is where we are now, of course. We are on Arathusa. And we're going to go up here and just see if she doesn't pop out on this road. She or he or both, with any luck. I believe you left them yesterday evening about to meet each other, which is quite exciting. I've yet to see them together, so I would be very excited to see that. I believe Sindila is supposed to be 8 months old. He looks quite big to me for an 8-month-old leopard, so if anybody can tell me when he was born, that would be fantastic. I suppose he could be almost 9 months. There we go. I thought I had a track there. I did, but it's about as old as the Jurassic period, so unlikely that she's on the end of it. Catherine in Texas, thank you for your question. You think that I'm dressed a bit like an Eskimo, either dressed like an Eskimo or look like an Eskimo, I'm not sure which. There was a warthog that went running across the road. Try and get a picture. You'd like to know what my favorite time of day is. My favorite time of day is the dusk, just after the sun has set. That's my favorite. It's the most peaceful time of day for me. Now there was a warthog that went knocking across the road here, but I don't see him anywhere. We will keep an eye out. A pig, of course, of that size, a big boar pig, is going to be a bit too much for a leopardess to handle. She only weighs about probably 40 or 50 kilos, is quite big, which is about times 2.2, say 110 pounds. So she's not very big, and an adult boar warthog can weigh twice that. As you can see, I still have only one glove. Brent Leo Smith very kindly lent me this one. He's lost the other one, along with much of his sanity. But that's why we love him. Any tracks there, Andrew?
Negative.
So she hasn't popped out here just yet, which is filling me with a deep sense of sadness. So often you find them on foot like that, and then you assume that you have now become the leopard tracking expert, and that every other time you look for them, they will be found with ease. Then it just takes one morning to make you realize that that is not in fact the case, and that it will be as difficult and as rewarding to find them every single time. The moon is sitting at about 2/3. Can you have a look at it, Andrew? There we go, we can see it there. And the reason I show it to you is not only because it's quite attractive, but because it's... Oh, that's quite a nice picture actually, I might turn off. But because it's really... it's important when it's at that sort of, from here and fuller than that, it's waning now, but from that and fuller, it bathes the night in a very kind of milky blue glow that makes it very difficult for the predators who like to hunt at night to catch anything. And so the impala and the kudu and everything else that comes out, and wildebeest come out onto the clearings so that they can see predators at night, really enjoy the full moon. The other animal that really enjoys the full moon, of course, is the wild dog, because it means they can hunt at night. There's a little white-browed scrub robin calling off to the left. It's always a good way to warm up your mouth on a chilly morning, to say white-browed scrub robin again and again. Jacques in Centurion. Nice to have a question from somewhere so close to home. I actually know a Jacques in Centurion, but I don't think it's you. You'd like to know how we identify the different leopards in this area. Well, the most reliable and easiest way is to do it through a spot pattern. And each leopard just above the whisker line has a unique spot pattern. And so if we refer to a leopard as being one of the most famous leopards in this area, was called the 3-4 female. She had 3 on the left and 4 on the right, and that's the most reliable way of doing it. But if you've got sufficient photographs of leopards in this area, they've all got unique bits and pieces of spot patterning all over the face and all over the body. But if the most reliable is the spot pattern above the whiskers. Some of our regular viewers have come up with amazing ways to identify the leopards here, and that's fantastic. Ooh, beautiful kudu bull there. He's very confiding. I can't see what he's eating, but he looks like he's grazing. I suspect quite strongly, however, that he's eating little forbs, which are herbaceous plants that aren't grass, down on the ground there. He's especially on a termite mound, because that's where the nutrition will be best. Isn't he magnificent? Oh, that's beautiful. He's got about 2.5 turns in his horns, which would probably put him at about 5 or 6 years. And you can see how shaggy his coat has got as the winter has progressed. Yeah, he's not eating grass. So often people see things like kudu with their noses on the ground like this and say, well, look, they're grazing. They're not browsing at all, but they're not eating grass. They're eating different kinds of sort of forbs. That's not to say they won't eat very fresh grass, especially on a termite mound where they'll be a lot more nutritious. Kudu are often found on termite mounds, especially this time of the day. There's some sort of territorial advertising about it. He'll go and he'll stand up there and he'll look around. All around the sort of dawn chorus is finished, and we've moved into the sort of morning song time. You can hear that white-browed scrub robins going. I don't know if you can hear that bearded woodpecker going. It's a territorial tapping. He's not looking for food. A couple of hornbills in the background. And the most peaceful sound of this time of the day is the chin spot batis, which goes. A couple of rattling testiculars, southern black tit. I hope you can hear some of that. It's just wonderful sound. Some francolins shouting at each other. Beautiful soundtrack to the day. Now you can see this kudu he's not only eating up there, he's advertising. I'm just going to try and see what bush he's eating there with my powerful binoculars. I think these were last used by Field Marshal Erwin Rommel at the Battle of Tobruk. They are so old. This is eating some sort of form, I can't identify it with these. Yeah, that's him advertising. Edward on Twitter, you'd like to know if there are any invasive animals or plants in this area that are causing problems. Edward, that is an excellent question. The only major invasive animal in this area is in fact us. But we're doing our best not to do too much damage. But we do need to watch out for it with our roads and our lodges and the amount of water we pull out of the ground to satisfy our tourism needs. And the electricity that we bring into the area and the supplies, etc. But I think people are getting much better at mitigating the effects of that stuff, and tourism is certainly, the ecotourism is certainly becoming a lot greener as we go forward. Then plant-wise, yes, there are a few, certainly down on the rivers. What happens is that in the villages to the west of us, sort of invasive plants tend to go unchecked, and their seeds get into the rivers, and then they come and they sort of line the banks. And there are extensive programs to try and remove alien vegetation. One of the big invasives is something called Queen of the Night, which is a cactus from Mexico, I think, which we don't like, and we try and get rid of that. And then there are a few others. There's a wild tobacco of some sort. The Mexican poppy is another one that comes down the rivers. And they're certainly alien, but they're not particularly invasive. There is also something called lantana, which can be a lot more invasive if you don't look after it. And certainly down in Natal, there's a thing called chromalina, or triffid weed, which causes tremendous issues. But as far as I know, that hasn't created a problem in the Kruger Park as yet. The only real, I think, invasive animal I know of is the tropical house gecko, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, is not native to this area, but I need to check that. Janet in Massachusetts, you would like to know how much I think the horns weigh on a kudu. That's a difficult one to answer. I have picked up a kudu skull, so I'd say probably around about, say 6 or 7 kilograms. So you can multiply that by 2.2, 20 pounds or so. So not a huge amount. But when you pick them up, certainly heavier than I'd like to carry around on my head every day. But nothing like that on a buffalo. And a buffalo skull is a seriously heavy thing. He's advertising himself beautifully here, isn't he lovely? And you can see what a hindrance those horns must be if he's trying to escape from a predator in thick bush. And they reckon that's half the reason they survive only half as long as the females do. His ears constantly flicking back and forth, listening. They have to be so vigilant. It's a lovely shot of his ears. Right, well, let's just not dally too long with this kudu. Beautiful antelope as he is. I'm not mistaken, he came second in our antelope poll the other day. As voted by you. Also got some answers to the question about an alien invasives. Some very sharp regular watchers, Dance Anyway, and from Illinois we had the name has now slipped to me. Georgian, hello. You've mentioned the red star zinnia. Yes, it is certainly an alien. It's not particularly invasive though, so it doesn't take over huge areas, but it's certainly in disturbed areas it will seed, but generally will be replaced by grasses once those areas are sort of restored. So alas, we do not seem to have found any sign of shadow and cub. To go, in fact, down this road here, because I think we've come much too much north for the direction that it. So, and apparently the signal is a bit bad, so if you lose us, I apologize profusely. This was not my fault. It is the Martians playing with satellites. Some kind of dispute over who should be supplying the space station. Andrew, can you get those Franklins there? It's just such a nice picture of them sitting in the sun. You see them?
Yeah.
So I've just spotted a little covey of Franklins. They're all huddled together and browsing, at least not browsing, basking in the sun there. Look at them. They're very sweet little birds. And to the right-hand side we've got some kudu cows. But let's just look at those birds for a while. They nest in trees, or they don't nest in trees, they give birth on the ground, but they certainly roost in trees, because lying on the ground at night can be a dangerous practice if you're a tasty bush chicken, as those are. It's quite interesting, all the ground birds that we have out here have chicks that are born what we call precocial, so like you have precocious human being children, you have precocious chicks and babies out here, and these precocial chicks are able to move just about as soon as they hatch from their eggs. They're covered in a down, their eyes are open, and they can move because they're born on the ground and they obviously can't fly. And so they need to be able to run and move and get out of the way and hide from predators as soon as they come out of their little eggs. Whereas altricial, which is the opposite of precocial, chicks like any of the birds that are songbirds that live in trees, like robins or even some of the eagle species, they're born very altricial. They're born with no feathers, blind, and totally helpless. I mean, without their mother's care, they'd be dead almost immediately. And that's because they can, they're defended by virtue of their nests high in trees or in cliffs. Right, I'm afraid we're going to disturb this little covey of francolines. This is the crested francolin, one of 5 we get here. Should have a little quiz as we carry on through here. So anybody who would like to tell me what the other 4 francolins we get here are, that would be fascinating. So off often not quite as confiding as the crested. There's one there, Andrew, if you can get them wet. You can see how beautifully camouflaged they are. Andrew's, it's right in the middle of the picture, but it's still quite difficult to see. There it is. That's a great shot. They're always communicating with each other. They're always just making little clucking sounds as they go. I think this is one of the best crested francolin sightings I've ever had. And we're just going to amble slowly along here. A little kudu calf, looking slightly terrified by us. Great kudu sight. Never normally get this close to them. Look at her perfect ears. She's sniffing the air. I think they keep their noses wet because it enhances their senses of smell. Hugely important for all animals out here. Every time I speak, her ears turn towards me. Now she's looking at me, looking straight into my eyes. A constant state of nervousness. Beautiful. Right, we're going to keep on looking for shadow and cinderlay. Scott apparently has some other form of ground-dwelling bird that he would like to show you. So we're going to cross quickly to him. Signal's not great here, so when I see you again, we'll hopefully be in better signal, and the Martians will have stopped fiddling with our satellites. See you just now.
Welcome back, everyone, and it sounds like you've been having a great time with the moon, the kudu, and a few little different birds, and we've also found some interesting little birds called sand grouse. We don't get to show you them very often. There's a pair. The male is the individual you can see. He's the one that has the double bands just on the end of his beak. And the female is somewhere around. She lacks the markings on the head. And down the same road that sandgrass is heading, a female leopard walked last night. We've got tracks of her passing underneath our vehicle where we position now, heading down the same track of these sandgrass. And awesome, I've just spotted a bird that we've heard calling a little bit earlier. Phil, it's at about 10 o'clock, just making its way through the grass at the base of those trees. If you just zoom in at about 10 o'clock, you'll pick her up. Oh, well done. And we heard it calling a little bit earlier. I hope it calls again. It was a very loud call. I think it's going to do it. Here we go. And that is a red-crested koorhaan, which is a bird we don't very often get to show you. It spends the majority of its time in long grass on the ground, and it appears to be doing a mating call. I'm so happy that you got to hear it, and it's nice and close, so it would have been very loud for you. And because it's difficult for you to see it clearly, although Phil is doing a great job there, I will get a picture ready in the bush. Wonderful. And all the clouds in the sky have disappeared, so in a few moments, a little bit later, we will show you. And just to correct myself, it's probably not a mating call that we heard, but more of a territorial call. So that's that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to let Phil show you the blue sky as this day has cleared up into a wonderful, wonderful, typical winter's day. And we are enjoying the sunshine. And what I'm going to do is also I'm going to get the book ready to show you this korhaan. I couldn't see very clearly whether it was a male or a female, but I'm guessing it was a male, and it's the red-crested korhaans are the one on the right over here. So you may well have seen more clearly than I could. It sometimes also does incredible displays and flies up into the air and then almost somersaults backwards back down to the ground, almost as if it's been shot out of the sky. Very good. Well, that's a bird we don't very commonly see. And we also had some more leopard tracks. It wasn't just female leopard tracks that we had in this area. I'd like to show you these female leopard tracks. They are very crisp and fresh. So I'm just going to jump out the vehicle. And there's a series of tracks heading towards you, some of which are here. And I'm guessing that you'll be able to see fairly clearly the imprints and the toe marks of the leopard. Here's the pad. There are more over here. And they continue along in this direction until eventually they pass directly underneath the vehicle and continue down the sandy road. Here's some more. And I can tell that it's a female simply because of the size. It's a very small track. And males would be considerably larger than that. Possibly Karula. Karula has been spending a lot of time in this area. Or possibly Nkanyeni, another female leopard who also spends time out here, but we don't see her very often. But for me, just seeing tracks on the road and imagining a leopard walking down here is almost as good as seeing the real thing. We've had tracks of another female crossing north into Buffelshoek. We saw where she had gone to the toilet on the middle of the road and then crossed straight into Buffelshoek. And then tracks of a male, possibly Mvula, heading down towards Buffelshoek Dam. And then once he had a drink, he headed back out. And we haven't found any more of his tracks. So there's still a chance we could find him. He was heading into this general area that we are moving in now. And thankfully, the road here is very good for seeing tracks. So should be able to find out what he has done, provided he did cross the road. this area that we're in now, and who knows, maybe we will get lucky again this morning. There's not very many vehicles out this morning, which is great in one respect, because we've got the whole place to ourselves. However, one of the negatives of not having lots of vehicles around is that we lack the help of more eyes and ears on the ground. And basically it sounds like just James and myself here on Djuma. There's one or two other vehicles on Buffalo's Hook, which have provided us with the information on the Nkuhuma Pride, which have killed a buffalo. But sadly that is not where we can go. But still useful information for us. Welcome along with us again. Anna Marie would like to know if there's a chance of seeing a Kori bustard here on Djuma, and there certainly is. They prefer open grasslands, and it's a bird much larger than the red-crested corehound that we saw earlier, but quite a similar shape and lifestyle. They spend a lot of time on the ground. They don't spend too much time flying. And I have seen them in the Sabi Sands, but in areas with bigger open grassy clearings. So even though there is a chance, it's not a very high one, and in the 7 months that I've been here, I've yet to see one on air or off air. But don't worry, if you tune in for enough safaris, Anne-Marie, you'll definitely get lucky at some point. And that's the beauty of being out here. We just never know what's going to surprise us. So stay tuned, and hopefully we'll get to show you one. It's actually almost worth showing you again now. They're really cool birds, the Kori bustards. And they are related to one of the heaviest flying birds called the royal bustard, which weighs about 10 kilograms more, I believe, than the Kori bustard. Maybe I'm wrong about that. The Kori bustard's the one at the top here. And according to this book, it says they are about 12 kilograms, which is about 24 pounds, roughly 25 pounds. And they stand about a meter tall. So it's a large bird. And it feeds mainly actually on vegetable matter. Also insects and small reptiles, so a wide variety of food, and a really interesting looking bird. They look almost prehistoric. And even though the chances are slim, there certainly is a chance. I'm going to ask Phil just to pan across to the distribution map on the left of the page, and you'll see that they occur throughout the whole of the Kruger National Park. This map is simply for the Kruger Park and not for other areas. And I'm just going to get a little stick here to show you where we are in relation to this map. We are on this corner of the Kruger National Park with fences open into this whole area, and we are on that little southwestern tip of the Kruger National Park. So clearly, according to the distribution map, we can find them here, but in the right habitat within this general area. This park is about 300 kilometers long, to give you an idea, and about 50 kilometers wide. So that's probably around just under 200 miles long. Or maybe around 200 miles long and about 30 miles wide as a rough average. And the Mozambican boundary is basically along this whole eastern boundary of the Kruger National Park is Mozambique. Along the western boundary is South Africa. To the north is Zimbabwe. And the park is actually opened up into Zimbabwe as well as Mozambique in this top right-hand corner. So it's a trans-frontier national park between 3 different countries, which is great. It's not always been the case, and with better conservation efforts, we are expanding wilderness areas and allowing animals to have more space to roam. And the more space they have and the more freedom they have, the less we as humans have to ever get involved and intervene in population genetics. So even though try and fix problems that we've caused. So I wonder where Mvula headed to. His tracks were heading in this general direction. We're going to take the next road to our right. And I'm guessing he may even cross over this road or tracks of his, as it is a pathway he takes from time to time. Kind of that happening here. So maybe he's... We haven't had any tracks of him crossing out. We've checked the northern boundary. Pile of elephant dung. We just drove over fresh, and another one there. Sadly, it's worth me explaining a little bit. Elephants don't have territory, so they roam massive distances in search of food, and they aren't bound by a territory, so they can come and me. And like I just said, we are in the north. Buffelshoek Dam, which is where this male leopard that we're looking for went down to drink last night. And from there he tended in a northerly direction, away from the dam, north and slightly east, I guess, so he could well pop out onto this road at any moment. It's a pity James hasn't come up lucky with Shadow and Sindile, but it's a tough business trying to find these animals, and it just goes to show how lucky we are when we do get to see them. hoping he was going to get lucky after he provided us with such a wonderful sighting of Shadow yesterday. He went and did some tracking on foot and managed to find her. So it would have been wonderful if he got some time to spend with her this morning, but all of us know that it's up and down Archer in terms of luck with sightings, and you can't get demoralized simply because you're not finding what you're looking for. Leopard's urine smells like pop. Guys, it's not necessarily just their urine, it's specifically their scent mark that they spray onto the trees, which, yes, is urine. And that scent mark smells distinctly and incredibly like buttered popcorn. Not just popcorn, there's a very buttery smell to it. And if we were to drive down a road that a leopard had just been walking down spraying on the bushes, we would quite easily smell it. I remember a few months ago with Brian, we were driving down Central Road and I stopped because I smelt that smell, and I know Brian hadn't smelt it yet. Brian's one of the other cameramen who's having a good time on leave now. I'll let you all know. And as we stopped and reversed for him to smell the leopard's scent mark, which smelled like buttered popcorn, the leopard popped out in front of us, and we continued to have a great sighting of him that morning. So it's very easy to smell even for our weak senses. Well, no luck with Mvula's tracks. I wonder where he is. He could be in this block with a kill. It's a very big block up to our right, and we may need to try and spend some time on foot here a little bit later, or simply we could have just missed his tracks. Something else happening here at the waterhole, so let's see what's going on. When we came past earlier, there was just a lone hippo and a few birds fluttering about, and it looks like that still is the case now. Such an interesting life that hippos lead. Wallowers by day and grazers by night. They will seek refuge in the water for the majority of the day. It may go out and sun itself at various points, especially in winter, to keep warm, but they do have very sensitive skin, so they do need to keep submerged for as much of the sunlight hours as possible. And then, come night time, they head on out in search of grass, and they require about 40 kilograms of grass every evening, which can, at times of the year like this, when it will become dry, will take many, many kilometers or miles of searching for food, and it can take them quite far from their water source. You may have noticed a grey lory flying over the hippo's head and landing on the water's edge. And there will be a constant stream of animals coming through to this waterhole today. hold on, let me rephrase that. Not a constant stream, otherwise we would be seeing animals now, but a steady flow of various mammals and birds. Oh, well done, Phil. Coming and going, and they typically don't spend too long here because it's a danger zone for anything coming to drink. As they have their heads down drinking, they could easily be ambushed by a variety of different predators that roam this area. I just want to creep up to a dead knobthorn tree. I saw a few squirrels playing around on it earlier. I can't see any of them now, but I would like to take you there and see if we can see any of the little squirrels. And failing that, I think you'd all like to go and spend some time with James now and find out what he's been up to. He is such a character, and we're really enjoying having him on our team, and I'm sure all of you are as well. He's bringing a great, fresh dynamic to the team, and we look forward to expanding the team further. As some of you may know, we had 2 interviewees, Byron and Chris, here this week. I think we've got another one coming through this coming week. And the exciting news about the new presenter is that she is a lady. And I'm hoping that we can get a girl onto our team. Great news, the squirrel is there. It's just hopping down towards us, so we're going to get some great views of it shortly. It's just at the main fork of the first left-hand fork of the tree. It did disappear though just a moment ago, and it could pop out anywhere now, so we just have to be a little bit patient and see what it decides. Oh, there it's on the right-hand fork now. If you zoom into that first right-hand fork, you'll get it, I think. I just saw its ears flicking up in that fork, and let's see if it doesn't poke its head out there. That'll be perfect. Come on, little tree squirrel. There's lots of people that would love to see what you're up to this morning. But it doesn't seem to be wanting to go on camera this early in the morning. Understandable, I guess. Well, because the squirrel is hiding from us, I think we should link across to James, who I don't think will be hiding from any of you, and we will catch up with you all a little bit later. Enjoy, and hopefully we'll have something interesting when you come back to us.
You find us on a termite mound, Termitaria, home to Macrotermes natalensis, the fungus-growing termite, and I'm trying to A, warm my hands, and B, find a termite for you to look at. Now, I'm taking me life in me hands slightly here because there's not a very obvious opening, so I'm having to fossick and dig a bit like an aardvark, which might result in my fingers being savaged by a soldier termite. It's very moist and very warm in here, which is quite nice. So my hands are receiving the warmth they want. There's a whole lot of warm precipitation coming out of this mound. And Andrew said to me as we pulled up here, he said, termite mounds with grass on them are not active, are they? So I punched him in the face and said, don't be an idiot, man. I didn't really. What happens is that these termite mounds, they're not often in a constant state of activity. So they'll become active like this, and this termite mound is actually huge. It's probably about 10 meters or 30 feet in diameter, and it will extend a huge distance down into the ground, down to the water table, and back up again. And then what happens is that eventually the queen lives in her little chamber underneath, and she produces 20,000 eggs a day, which is quite a lot of eggs if you think about it. You probably couldn't count to 20,000 in a day. And then when she dies, the colony will die with her. But it may well be recolonized. So the original royal chamber is probably not the same as it was for this particular one. And so this section of the mound here, where there is no grass, just around there, is in fact still active. And it's very wet. I just heard a stick break, sorry. So, okay, it seems Andrew is not being approached by any predators from behind. It's very wet, but I suspect the termites they've kind of closed it off and disappeared inside. And I'm looking here at a whole lot of dung from a hornbill. And I suspect they've closed it up in response to some pressure from the hornbill. So I'm not going to do too much more fossicking around. I'm going to pick you some of this rather beautiful grass. I imagine the picture of me lurking amongst this grass is rather appealing. If you can put someone else's face on me, say a model of some sort. The grass is something called, excuse me, Chloris. Wonderful name. It's called Chloris roxburghiana. Chloris roxburghiana, or the feathered chloris, I think it is. And they love to grow on these termite mounds. Not very good eating for animals or human beings. Pretty tasteless. Bit like straw. Yes, not nutritious, but makes me look kind of bucolic, I think. We're going to carry on now. We're going to go down the road here to a little waterhole and see what we can find there. As you can see, it has warmed up quite a lot. I'm no longer dressed for the North Pole. So I think that front that came through yesterday has mercifully made its way off somewhere else. Here we go. Stuck here. Okay, you're about to lose my signal, so we're going to go back to Scott.
Yeah, we're live. Welcome back, everyone. And the squirrels finally came out, not one but two, and they've been grooming one another and having a jolly old time here on their knobthorn tree. They really are making sure that one another are clean and are quite rigorous in their actions here. They're such awesome animals to watch. I'm so jealous of the way that they can clamber up and down these trees. Oh, look at the one just above it quickly, Phil. Oh no, it was dangling off its back legs, almost not using its front legs at all. I'm not sure what gave those Franklin a fight behind us. I'm looking back, but can't see anything. And sometimes they just get a little bit flustered with themselves. And there'll be a network of tunnels within this tree that these squirrels can hide in and sleep in. And that's where they disappeared to a little bit earlier, hence us not being able to show them to you. I hope James was successful in his termite hunt, and I wonder if he ate one. He's eating just about anything he can get his hands on at the moment, old James. And I wonder what this squirrel's planning on eating this morning. Oh, look, it's going to take some bedding up to its room, I think, possibly. Let's watch this closely. I think it's going to be doing some housekeeping. And it could well carry these leaves up into the cavity. There he goes, into the tree. And you would have thought that we would manage to watch a squirrel doing its housekeeping this morning. It's taking the most comfortable of leaves in for its bedding, called the magic guarri. And just the name of that tree sounds quite appropriate for bedding. And I wonder if it's going to come out to get some more. Oh, awesome, popping out of that little hole in the middle of the tree there. And this is actually incredible. It's such a small hole that it's hard to even see. And earlier when it popped its head out there, I was astonished as to the sights of it clambering out. Let's see if it's going to pop its head out of that little hole. Oh, no, it came out of another hole. So there's a network of different burrows that it can use to get in and out of its home. And let's see if it's coming to harvest some more of the magic guarri bush. I also wonder whether it's the lady or the male that's doing the housekeeping. Either way, they both appear to be involved now. What will be their next plan this morning? There were a few crested francolin that you may have got a glimpse of in the background. And those are the same francolin we heard alarm calling earlier. But now I'm going to ask Phil to zoom up into the top of the tree. There's some beautiful birds. Apologies, Phil, and everyone to race you around. But there's a bird that we very seldomly get to see. It's clambering up in the dead tree here. And we will get a few visuals as they move around. They're very, very pretty birds. And we don't see them often at all. So I'm going to leave this one for you to identify. Get a screenshot quickly. And that way you'll be able to go back and look through and try and establish which bird this is. They fly in small family flocks. And they're not making easy work for Phil here because they are moving around so much, so quickly. There we go. It's not the ideal angle, but hopefully it'll pop its head around. But you can see that very bright red beak and bright red eye. They've all just flown off now. The squirrel's on its way back with a bit more bedding, though, that Phil might be able to catch on his way down the tree. Where'd the squirrel go? Sheesh, this tree is providing us with so much life and so much action. And isn't it interesting how something that is dead provides such a useful home and place to find food to various animals. It'll be a perch for large raptors to land on. And we can thank the elephant for killing this tree. As Phil zooms out while we wait for these squirrels to make their next move, we'll notice the base of this tree has got all the bark stripped off it, and you can even see that piece of bark dangling down on the right-hand side of the tree. The bark of the knobthorn acacias is very easy to strip off, so once the elephants have pried off one little piece of bark with their tusk, it literally peels off, and the elephants would have ring-barked that tree, so removed all of the bark around the circumference of the base of this tree, which prevents the flow of nutrients from the roots to the leaves, thus causing the tree to die. And the squirrel's now making its way out again, just on the right-hand side of the tree there. So it's a necessary destruction that actually causes future life and future homes for various animals. Interestingly, the squirrel went quite far afield to get the last mattress that it went to go and find, but now it's going back to the same guarri bush that it initially used for its bedding. But the last piece it came back with was collected from across the road, so maybe it's making a combination mattress with various leaves. I couldn't tell which the other leaves were. There it goes. Maybe it's making somebody else's bed. It's gone into another hole now. Or maybe it's just getting its guest rooms ready for some visitors that it could be expecting this afternoon. I'm only kidding. It's probably just the pair of these squirrel that we are watching who live in these cavities. There may be youngsters a little bit lower down there, Phil. There we go. Well, this is absolutely awesome, and as wonderful it is to see the insights into the lives of the larger animals out here, I'm really enjoying watching these squirrels go about their morning business. And I hope you are too. No, it may be going off to get a different form of mattress. It's heading off in the same direction where it went earlier before it came running back with... just so quick. Let's see what it does here now. It came back from that same area where we can see it now, and I can see the other squirrel in that same bush as well. What will they do next? Yeah, it looks like she is actually getting a different form of mattress. So there she's going for a red bush willow, it looks like. And I think she's on her way back down. Now, I'm assuming it's the ladies, so don't get me wrong. I'm not assuming that women must be the ones to make the bed. I'm just saying that simply because of size, it looks like the other one is slightly bigger, which could mean it's the male. It also came back with something, I'm not sure what. No, I can't see anything. Coming back empty-handed, as far as I could see. But the female's on her way back up now with the red bush willow leaves, so let's catch her going back up the tree. There she goes. Can you believe it? The first time she got a guarri bush, then she went off with the red bush willow, then another guarri bush, then another red bush willow. So she or he has got a very systematic way about going to gather nesting material. I also wonder how often they gather new nesting material, whether it's every couple of days or whether it's a morning ritual. Last station didn't copy you. Please go again. Okay, copy. Thank you for that update. Just got an update that there are some other lion that were found in Buffelshoek, but again, it's not in an area where we could go. Possibly the Torchwood Pride. So there's a lot of lion moving about, but to be honest, I'm so happy that we are not watching lion right now, otherwise we wouldn't be watching this very interesting squirrel action. And I'm looking forward to hearing the answers as to which birds you may think we saw a little bit earlier. So it's one that a lot of you may not have seen. Okay, well, to Diane, who said the red-billed buffalo weaver, you are very close, but sadly, that is not the correct bird, but it's very easy to confuse the bird that it was with the red-billed buffalo weaver. And another reason why Diane may have said that is because she may know that there are some red-billed buffalo weavers' nests here at Buffelshoek Dam, which we are very close to. I can give you a clue. It's got something to do with its head. And another answer was a green woodhoopoo. Again, not a bad guess. The coloration was there, but the beak was the wrong size. The green woodhoopoo has a very long red beak. So that is incorrect, but very close guess. Not a bad guess at all. And then I think it's Joanne who's come the closest, and she's basically right, saying the red-billed helmet shrike. Now, it's not the red-billed helmet shrike, it's the Retz's helmet shrike. But very well done for getting that close, Joanne. And to Kira, James, and Raisa, well done. Because... and Diane, I think, is one name I could have missed. Here we go with a bit more red bush willow into the apartment block here at the Buffelshoek Waterhole Knobthorn. And it's interesting how every time it goes in through a different entrance. So there could be various beds or simply various tunnels which it can use to get to where it wants to go. But a very well done to all of you who did submit answers, be it right or wrong. And it's a bird that we don't very often get to see, so I thought it would be a good one to test you on and a good one to add to the list that a lot of you are working on. And it's a great way to get into birding by writing down a list of different birds that you see. It increases your natural competition of a human to want more and more and more. And I would suggest to any of you who are enjoying the Safari Live experience and tuning in very often to get a bird list going. I'm just going to ask Phil to zoom down now. I know the squirrels are providing us with so much action, but in the meantime I would like to show you a close-up of the Retz's helmet shrike. This is the one we see more often, the white-crowned, or white-crested helmet shrike rather. But the Retz's we don't get as commonly here. So bright red wattle around the eye, as well as that short red beak. And what I'm also going to do shortly, I'm just going to ask Phil to zoom out quickly, and I'm going to find the red-billed buffalo weaver, and then show you how easily you could confuse that with the Retz's helmet shrike. It's also a very black bird with a red beak on the top right here, but it lacks the wattle around the eye and has a slightly different coloration in general. So you were very close, Diane, and you can all now understand how easy it is to get those two confused. The green woodhoopoo, I'm not going to show you now, but it's got a long, thin red beak. Virginia in Kentucky, and welcome on board with us. Virginia would like to know if all of the action we've been seeing here with these squirrels and all the kind of nesting material that they're carrying in, is it a sign that they could potentially be nesting fairly soon? Or not nesting, rather having youngsters fairly soon? There certainly is a chance, but I'm actually not entirely sure when they mate and when they breed. I'm guessing it could be year-round, but I could be wrong. So if any of you would like to check up on that and share that information with us, I'd be highly grateful. As I'm not sure exactly when it is that the squirrels will reproduce. But what I can tell you, Virginia, is that because it's very cold at this time of the year, it could well be that all they're worrying about is themselves and not necessarily any youngsters. And in all likelihood, the majority of the herbivores will mate in order to give birth in the summer months when there's a bounty of food. But if any of you would like to double check that and find out when the tree squirrels do most of their mating, I'd be highly appreciative of that. Well, nobody said it was easy looking after your house here in the knobthorn tree, and leaf by leaf, that wasn't a very successful trip, as there was only one or two little leaves in her mouth. Wouldn't it be great to see inside and see that bed being made and see them all curled up in it tonight? We can let our imaginations run wild though as to what it's like in there. Well, as much as I'm loving spending time with these squirrels, I'm beginning to get itchy feet, and I'm feeling an urge to venture forth in search of anything else of interest out here. And while we move off, I think it'll be a good opportunity to catch up with James and Andrew. So from Phil and myself, we'll catch up with you a little bit later. Enjoy James and what he has in store for you.
Welcome back to Wendy, everyone. As I told you earlier, we have given up on the tracks of Shadow and Cub, and we've now come to the far eastern sector of our reserve, which is Djuma. Off to the west we see the Drakensberg Mountains, 1,000 kilometers of them. And one day I shall tell you the tales of the Boer explorers who came down the Drakensberg and how they managed that. But at the moment we are hoping to find some elephants. There have been a lot of elephant tracks around this area at the moment, and we're not actually on any at the moment, but we hope that's what Andrew and I have set our intention to finding. And we also want to find a jacket plum tree. And when we do, I will explain to you why we want to find, or I want to find that tree specifically. Now, there were some answers to the quiz regarding the Franklins. I don't think there were many very correct answers, so you'll have to work on that. We haven't updated the answers. Diane and James, thank you very much for your answers. I'm afraid the grey-winged and the red-winged we don't get in this area, but a good try. And then some of the regulars, Georgianne and a few others, have managed to send through the correct answers. The 5 Franklins we get here are the Shelleys, quite rarely, the Koki, which is that beautiful golden head. The Shelleys makes a call like this. Stand by. Goes. How's that, Andrew?
Yeah, that was decent.
Okay. Andrew thinks that was better than my hornbill impression. Then we have the Crested and the Swainsons. Is that all of them? No, Natal Franklin. The Natal Franklin's got a very pretty orange beak. So those are the 5. The Swainson's is now called a spur fowl, and that's what's interesting about that. It's called a spur fowl because it's got a spur on the end of the foot, where the fifth digit would be on the foot, and that spur is used in fighting. So a bit like in a cock, a chicken cock has got a spur, and that's what when people did savage things like fight cocks, and I think they still do in some parts of the world. That's what does the damage. That's why it's called the Swainson's spur fowl. I think the Natal may also be a spur fowl. Mongoose. There's some dwarf mongoose going up into that little termite mound there. Can you see them, Andrew?
No.
The light is not great. You're looking at them, straight at them there. If you change the filter there, you might get there. You got them there? I can see them. Anyway, Carol, you've asked a question about whether... Yeah, we're not going to see those mongoose very nicely. I think let's carry on. You asked a question about whether guinea fowl are related to francolins or not. No, they're not. Their only sort of relationship is that they are both birds, obviously, and that they both spend most of the time feeding on the ground. But they're not actually from the same family. Very interesting thing about a guinea fowl. This is my favorite guinea fowl fact, other than the fact that they taste so bad. Michael Johnson, who those of you in North America and possibly the rest of the world will know, still holds, as far as I'm aware, the 400-meter record. That's the sprinting record. He ran the 400 meters in about 30, I think it was 38 and a half seconds, somewhere around there. Now, if you clock a guinea fowl running, you can clock them doing about 45 kilometers an hour. A guinea fowl will do the 400 meters in about 28 seconds. Now, guinea fowl is that big, and its legs are that big. And it will leave Michael Johnson in the dust, provided you could make it run around a 400-meter track without being distracted by some grass seeds or insects, which is unlikely. But it just gives you an impression. The point of that story is to give you the impression of how incredibly sort of physically inadequate we are in an environment like this, and how we've evolved to use our minds far more than we have our physical prowess. So far, no jacket plums or elephants. Make pretty good eating if you happen to be very hungry out here, and there are very elaborate ways in which local people are able to trap them by making little grass snares. From Sheila, I'm assuming in the United Kingdom. Sheila, while we're not looking at animals, I will answer your question. Thank you very much. You'd like to know if I've ever acted in Shakespeare before. No, I haven't. And it's a pretty large gap in my education. And you think I should come and do a stint at the Globe Theatre? Well, Sheila, I'll make you a deal. If you organise it for me, I'll come over and do a stint at the Globe Theatre. It's very kind of you. Thank you. I'm still searching desperately for the Papia capensis, or jacket plum. The reason for this will become apparent, but I shall not tell you until I have found it, even if it does not happen on this game drive. So all around I can see, I believe we have some answers to how old Sindila is, so that would be great. So we've got answers between July and August of last year, which would put him, Andrew's just using all of his fingers at the moment to do the calculation for us.
10 to 11.
Yeah, so he's probably 10 to 11 months, not 8 months old, and from his size that makes a lot more sense. Also from how independent he is, that also makes a lot more sense. Thank you for those two answers. I think it was Diane and Chris. Thanks a lot. My instinct would be to say a 10-month-old cub. Finally, the air is warming. I did say that the front had gone away, but I don't think it has. I thought it was earlier than it is. It's almost 9 o'clock, I think. (8:52) here in Africa, in this part of Africa. Sorry, Andrew, let's just have a quick look over there. There are my mountains. I just had to show you them again once more. So it's only 16 degrees Celsius, which is 61 Fahrenheit. That's quite a nice way to remember these two things. So while we wait to see, it's always a good to stop and have a little listen to what's going on, see if we can't hear some branches breaking, or some beautiful tummy rumbling that those elephants make. That Drakensberg there presented an enormous barrier to anybody travelling to and from with anything other than on foot. There are some huge passes that go through there and some very treacherous ones. And the Boers, who were one of South Africa's original white inhabitants, in around about sort of 1800 or the late 1700s, began to trek from the Cape up onto the Highveld. And they were very sort of poor people, farmers moving in ox wagons, and they had to come down the side of that Drakensberg escarpment. Here and in Natal, the first one to come down this side was a chap called Louis Trichardt, after whom a fairly dubious settlement is named. And it was a hell of a feat to get the ox wagon down the passes. I mean, it was a hugely heavy piece of equipment, normally drawn by between 6 and 12 oxen. And the courage and fortitude of those Boers is quite astonishing. And as in most schools around the world, I think history certainly was when I was at school fairly appallingly taught, and the great stories of the Boers and the Zulus and the Xhosas were often not very well told, and so the incredible courage of the great trek and the amazing ingenuity of it was obviously often very poorly put across to us. But it really is that the Drakensberg contains hundreds and hundreds of amazing stories of how, of courage and of amazing ingenuity from the Boers, and and the local tribal inhabitants as well. Still in search of the jacket plum, Andrew. Don't let me down, man. Andrew's done a lot of work today. He's done some tracking. He's counted out the months. Got him finding trees. On top of that, he's had to make my mug look attractive on camera, which is no easy feat, I tell you. Maddie in Bonnie, Scotland, you'd like to know about trees and termite mounds and which came first. Excellent question. I'm going to try and find you an example before I answer the question. There we are, there's one right there. Can I get to it? Yes, I'm in a Land Rover, I can go anywhere I want. That's actually not a great one, Maddie. I'm going to keep driving and we'll find a better one than that. Sorry, Andrew. There are lots and lots of termite mounds with trees on them. Obviously, I will now not find any of them. Find one in the next few minutes. I will just explain the situation for you, Maddie. Might actually look at this. There's a small one here. Here we go. Let's look at this one, Andrew. Right next to us here. I will get out of the car. Fire up your microphone. Right, Maddie, this is your termite mound. From this day forth, it will be known as Maddie's termite mound. Now, you can see here we have two species of tree growing out of this termite mound. Here is a Gruvia. It looks like Gruvia monticola, quite a mature version. And the other one is a Strychnos or monkey orange tree. Many of which ended up in the undercarriage of the Land Rover during the wild dog chase the other day. Now, what happens here, Maddie, is that the termite mound will almost certainly come first, and the seed will be either dropped here by an animal that's feeding here and drops the seed in the dung, or what will happen is the termites, in the case of the brown ivory, I think this is what happens, and certainly maybe in a marula, the termites will drag the seed down into the termite mound, build around it, or it will get forgotten in some corner somewhere, and there it will germinate. And trees love it so much because termite mounds are so full of nutrients. But very seldom will termites build around, or in fact I don't know of any examples where termites will build around a tree. Termites that eat trees or dead wood will build they're not mounds, they'll build tunnels of sort of nutritious soil up the trunks of trees, but those never turn into mounds. So it's always the mound that comes before the tree. I hope that answers your question. Tory bush there. That other tree I picked, by the way, is something called a sandpaper bush, or Erita amina, and it's quite it feels like sandpaper. Right, on we go. Having a huge amount of success with the large animals today. And it is a very beautiful morning. Arrow-marked babblers calling. We've got a bit of a bird party here, Andrew. It will obviously disappear as soon as we swing the camera onto it. There's a rattling testicular there in that terminalia tree that you're on, far left-hand side. And I often mention this bird, but we very seldom manage to get it. There you can see it, coming into picture now.
I can't see it.
You've got him right in the middle of your picture. There, it just dropped. That was the rattling testicular, and you can hear them all around. I'm just going to be quiet for a second. Yeah, there's a little bird party going on here. We've got rattling testiculars, white-browed scrub robins, black-crowned chagras, southern black tits, long-billed crombecs, and that lovely call you can hear echoing through the drainage line there is a white-browed scrub robin. It's just such a sense of peace here now. Andrew, can you try and get onto the termite mound in front of us? I don't know if you can see there. There's another rattling testicular knocking about on the ground. No, he's gone again. We need a heat-seeking Hubble Space Telescope to be able to see that. Right, on we press. Our quest for the jacket plum or the elephants. There's a chagra flitting across this front of your screen. Kind of shrike. I think in the UK there's only one kind of shrike, if I'm not mistaken, and he's called the shrike. Here in Africa we get the same shrike. We call him the red-backed shrike, and he's only here in the summertime. So he should be with you now, or just arriving. I'm really testing Andrew now. I'm asking him to track a butterfly. Sorry. Yes, Andrew's turning red with puce with irritation when I point at things like that for him to find. About a quarter the size of a rattling testicular. Some fork-tailed drongos, another little bird party. More testiculars. Come on, Andrew, don't give up. be the first man to ever successfully film a rattling testicular into the sun. And a little nyala, can you see the nyala there? Standing beautifully still. Isn't that just gorgeous, with they're framed by the silver cluster leaf leaves and that light. Good job, Andrew, good job. That's a little calf, and her mother's just off to the front. You can see what a clever colour they are, and as soon as the light is dappled on them, they become difficult to see. Out in the open, not so much. But when they're in the thicker stuff, not easy to see them. And apparently, those stripes there, you can see a very nice example there. Those stripes break the outline of the animal, and if you see in black and white, and you hunt mainly at night, which is of course is what a lion does, what happens is that sort of colouring and that striping becomes quite confusing, moving quickly through the bushes like this at night time. And while there are thousands of theories as to why zebras have stripes, that's one of the good ones. That it breaks the outline and makes it difficult for lions to pick a direction of which they're running. Right, we're going to slowly forward. As I say quite often, this time of the morning, there's been a kind of sigh. The earth and nature around us, the sigh has breathed out. The sense of anticipation that comes with the dawn has dissipated, and it's been replaced by the kind of mid-morning lull. I use the term peace quite a lot, but it's peace and it's soporific, and it's just very relaxing. Still no jacket plunge. Yeah! Strongest piece of grass in the world. This is quite an interesting grass. Andrew, if you wouldn't mind having a look there. As I said before, the great storytellers are not people who necessarily tell stories of great repute, but they tell stories in such a way that they seem to be particularly exciting. And that's how we have to tell stories about grass, because grass generally is not considered the most exciting thing in the world. But this grass, Cymbopogon excavatus, smells like turpentine, and it is called the turpentine grass. Andrew, I think you should have a little smell. It smells exactly like turpentine. Cymbopogon excavatus. We'll try and remember that. And that's very clever, that. I mean, there's a reason for it. It doesn't just smell like that for the sake of it. Nothing will eat this grass. So the seed is completely protected because it smells and gives off the sort of scent of turpentine. Right. As us yet again, we're going to go across to Scott and see what he's got to find. He's approaching the hyena den. See you later.
details of turpentine grass. And he has a wealth of knowledge, and again another reason why we're so happy to have him on our team. Okay, so we are heading towards one of the old hyena den sites. I can see quite a few tracks going in and out down this road, and basically over the last few days we've lost track of where the hyena are currently denning. It may be that they have chosen to use another den site that we don't know the whereabouts of. We know two that they have been using fairly consistently over the last 7 months, but within the 7 months that we've been here, there were periods where we didn't have a clue where they were denning. It is certainly worth poking our nose in here, as like I said, there's already tracks of hyena heading in this direction, so maybe it's just been that our timing has been off and they are in fact here, but not looking promising at the moment. We do have to just keep on trying until we are certain that they are no longer here. But if we look across to the right into the old burrow where they have spent some time, you'll notice that nobody's home. And possibly they have moved off to another one of their den sites. It's not uncommon for them to move, because you could imagine how smelly and flea-ridden it gets in there after they've spent a few weeks in there. So they move around and let Mother Nature naturally clean out all their leftovers and excrements, and all the parasites move off, and then they can return after a few weeks or months away to a clean home. Okay, well, no luck there. And because I won't be on drive this afternoon, maybe I will come walking through this area trying to find Coma, to try find a new den site. It could be that they're at their old one, that Byron who was here on interview saw a warthog reversing into just the other night. And isn't it interesting how the hyena can move out and the warthog can move in almost within 24 hours. Occasionally hyena are even known to share with various animals, sometimes warthog and sometimes porcupine as well. But very important structures, these termite mounds or old termite mounds, that create safe havens for a lot of the animals to sleep in and raise their young in. And therefore, without the termites, simply for the role that they play in building these mounds, this ecosystem would not be complete. And more importantly, more important than not necessarily more important, but another important thing that the termites do is break down all the dead plant matter that is no longer palatable or digestible by animals, and recycle those nutrients back into the ecosystem. It's an incredibly vital role that the termites play. I remember hearing a very funny story when I was up in Kenya about termite mounds, and one of the guides had told his guests that they were graveyards. And I'm just going to stop here and listen. I've heard one or two birds alarm calling off to our right, and I'm just going to see if there's any more alarm calls. But while we stop and wait, I'll tell you the story. So this guide told his guests that during a drought a few years ago, there were a lot of elephants that were dying, and they couldn't remove all of the elephants or bury all of them, dig holes for them to bury them, so they just piled mounds of earth on top of the elephants. So every termite mound he would drive past, depending on its size, he'd say, oh, that was a beautiful big elephant. Or if the termite mound was small, he said, that was really sad. That was just a youngster that died. And he had his guests going thinking that there was just an elephant graveyard littered across the savannah. And I just thought I'd share that interesting story. So don't be conned by any guides. You have to always listen carefully to what they're saying and make sure they're not tricking you. They can be prone to saying bizarre things like I've just told you. Well, I'm happy to say that James has arrived at a waterhole that I was at earlier with all of you. But something has changed there. There's a few more animals that have arrived, and why don't you head across and see what James and the new visitors to that waterhole are. We'll catch up a bit later.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wendy. Wendy has found some buffalo bulls here at Buffalo's Hook Waterhole. They've just come out of the shadows, and we're obviously going to have a drink in the kind of water that you and I wouldn't put our feet into, but to them represents something of an important part of their diet. Now, I know our signal is not very stable here, so I'm going to try and sneak forward a little bit, and if you lose us, I apologize profusely. Few more of them there, and after their drink they're going to probably head off into the shade and sit and re-chew their breakfast, which is a pretty unappealing thought if you're a human being, but a great thought if you happen to be a beefalo. They're just engaging in some aloe grooming, these two at the back here. I haven't seen buffalo do that before, actually. That's quite interesting. I'm just going to look and see if I can't see an injury of some sort. No. No injury. Huge numbers of ticks and flies.
We had too much of an angle.
Sorry. So please excuse the wonky picture. We're too much of an angle for Andrew to make it stable. Andrew, can you get the starling here? Sorry, and while the buffalo are doing that, there's just we very seldom see these starlings in such perfect light. That is the Birchall starling. How shiny he is. Isn't that lovely? Iridescent blue. And just above him you can hear the oxpeckers calling. And that's sort of an alarm call that they're making at us, because they see us as a predator, and the animals will always listen out for that noise, just in case they need to look around and see what's coming. So it's like an early warning alarm system.
I can't pan at this angle.
Okay. I'm going to sneak a little bit forward to make things a bit easier for Andrew. He's taking liberties, is our Andrew. He's starting to make demands on me. I have to discipline him severely when I get stick. There we go. Would you like me to fan you as well, or perhaps hand you a hot chocolate? There we go. That's much. So they'd have spent most of the early morning, when it was chilly, off grazing and trying to find something to eat. And now they'll go and find a shady spot where they can lie down in the shade and chew the cud. And that'll keep them occupied for much of the rest of the day, I think. They're lovely old boys, these. They're still so full of muscle. And there, yeah, I don't think you could pick up the detail there, but the clouds of flies that are following them are quite astonishing. Right, well, I think we'll leave them to wander through there. We're going to head out onto the northern boundary and see if anything has crossed into Djuma during the course of the morning.
Wait a second, there's a nice dog here.
Oh, hang on. Andrew's giving me orders again. That is a beautiful shot, well done Andrew, of a emerald spotted wood dove. Nodding furiously. And you can see actually in this light, when it stands still, you might be able to see the emerald spots on the back. Especially if he turns round. We lost him. No.
He's hiding away.
Hiding in a buffalo hoof print. Beautiful little dove that. And it's such a lovely sound of the late winter. In late winter, when we go towards the springtime, they'll start to go in the middle of the day. Lovely sound that heralds the beginning of the spring. A couple of months before that happens, I'm afraid. Right, we will try and signal with you. You duct taping all sorts of things together so that we stay in communication. Eugene is by far the most harassed member of our staff. He is the one whose responsibility it is to make sure that when I speak you can hear. And that is no mean feat. The beefs in front of us. We love the way that they're standing next to some tamboti trees, casting a sort of lovely golden dappled light on them, and the sun's shining off their horns. They're already chewing the cud. This fellow in front of us is re-chewing what he earlier ate. He's going to sneak slowly forward. He's definitely going to move for us. Sorry, Andrew. There they go. Immensely powerful animals, these. They look a bit lumbering and slow at times, but they really are extremely fast and very, very strong. Hi guys. Ooh, hello. It's a much younger one that's looking at us there. He's also got a bit of a cough. Either that or he doesn't like the dust that his friends are kicking up. I'll leave them to disappear off into the bush and relax for the rest of the day. So we're going to make our way out onto the northern boundary. Andrew and I haven't been particularly successful on the big game front today, but that's okay. We've had a wonderful time. I hope you've had an enjoyable time too, that we've managed to teach you one or two things you maybe haven't known before. and shown you one or two things from a slightly different perspective. And this afternoon it will be me and Brent out on drive as far as I'm aware, and we'll see what we can find for you then. So I'm going to make my way back down the northern cut line and just see if anything hasn't crossed into Djuma during the morning, and we'll see you this afternoon. We're going to cross over to Scott just now, and he's going to say goodbye to you. But thank you so much for all your contributions and questions. We really do appreciate them. Please keep them coming, and tell your friends about us if they have a sufficient internet connection to watch us. We'd love to hear from them too. So from Andrew and myself, we bid you a fond farewell, and we're going to hand over to Scott and Phil to say goodbye to you, and just a special thanks to Nikki and Eugene again in the control room. See you later.
Welcome back, everyone, and happy to hear that the lone hippo at Buffelshoek Dam has some more visitors to keep it company during the course of today. And it sounds like a few more birds were added to the list of many birds seen this morning. I've just come up to a very similar vantage point, similar to where we were this morning, and what a view it is out here to the east. I hope you've all thoroughly enjoyed this morning's safari. I certainly have, and I'm sure James has too, and it wouldn't be the same without all of you on board with us. So thanks very much for joining, and a big thanks to Phil on camera, as well as to Nikki and Eugene in the final control. This afternoon, Brent and James will be heading out in search of things big and small, and I guess it's fair to say this morning was one of the drives with less of the major characters that we get to see. No cats were seen, but for me it was still thoroughly enjoyable because we got to see so many different animals, and probably one of my highlights was seeing those squirrels collecting their nesting material. It was something that I actually haven't seen at all. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did. And I'm just going to let Phil take you through the eastern plains of Djuma. And while I do that, I'm just going to apologize to Diane, who I said was incorrect in naming the red-billed helmet shrike. It's the old name, Diane, so nothing wrong with that. The bird names often change, so I wasn't aware that that was their old name. I only know them as the Retz's helmet shrike, so you weren't wrong, just a little bit outdated. And what a playground it is here in the Sabi Sands. We are extremely lucky to be on safari through these areas and enjoy the last few moments as Phil pans you through this incredible wilderness. And make sure to tune in for the sunset safari. Don't forget, we've got our fireside chat this evening where James will be playing on his guitar, and it's a sight worth seeing. So don't miss out. We'll all be there, James, Brent and myself. Until then, have a great day. We'll see you next time.